Warning, this episode contains mature subject matter that may not be so suitable for all viewers. Viewers' discretion is advised. Hello, guys and dolls. Welcome back to the Conversations with Zelia show. I'm your host, Zelia Lorraine. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. Now, in today's video, I'm going to discuss a topic that I briefly discussed in my pop culture hot takes video, which you can check out on the channel. And the topic is, did Prince have an easy year than Mike in the music industry? Now, this topic is pretty much based on research that I've done over the years, observations, and well-documented facts that's been public. So I know a lot of people are going to have a different view of my answer. So if you disagree or agree, then feel free to chat about it in the comment section. Other than that, let's get right into it. So my first point will be portrayal/views within media, and by media I mean sketch shows, movies and television, journalism, the journalistic coverage, etc. And in regards to that, Prince jokes were mainly about his height, career, and loverboy status, and were mostly good-natured and lighthearted. While MJ jokes, on our hand, were mean-spirited and often made jabs about his appearance, manufactured scandals, quirks, upbringing, etc. Like, I have occasionally on YouTube, I have a habit of watching old sketch comedy skits from In Living Color and Mad TV. And watching these skits, I notice how the dissonance, and how they betray Prince and Michael. In the Prince skit from In Living Color, sorry for the butchering, they did two Prince skits, one which made fun of his performance at the VMAs in '91 where he wore cutout jeans, and then the second, which was a parody of the song My Name is Prince, where they made fun of his faltering career, comparing the movie Graffiti Bridge to Vanilla Ice's, and how he pushed Vanity so hard that she turned to Christ. Then the Living Color MJ jokes, they were super mean-spirited. Like the Black or White parody, which made fun of Michael's vitiligo. Then the Home Alone sketch, which eerily predicted the fake allegations that Michael received. And then the skits about his upbringing. And then with Bad TV, the Prince skits they had was pretty much making fun of not only his short stature, but also his womanizer persona. And then the MJ jokes, they were super mean-spirited. Like, there was a MJ sketch called Maintain the Fame that pretty much made it seem as though MJ was a attention whore that created most of his scandals just to stay in the press. Then the Black Michael, White Michael sketch, the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy parody sketch, and then the courtroom sketch where Michael defends himself by singing different versions of his songs, most of them were from the Off the Wall Thriller era. And as in the R. Kelly episode from the Boondocks, he gets acquitted because of his talent. And you see what I mean with how different, how they were mocked, how they were portrayed in sketch comedy. And then with movies and television, if Prince was portrayed or mentioned in television, he's portrayed as the all-around cool guy. Like, for example, in The Last Boy Scouts, during Bruce Willis's character's daughter is mentioned as being a friend of Prince, and the song "Get Off" is played earlier at the strip club scene. Then with Michael, initially he was portrayed as an all-around cool guy, but later on he wanted pretty much be subjected to jokes about his appearance, the jokes and jigs about his appearance or whatever bad thing that was linked to Michael. Like, for example, a good example of this was the Three Kings movie, where one of the terrorists has a conversation with one of the main characters in regards to MichaelJackson. It big generalizations about Michael due to his appearance, claiming how America was the reason Michael Cool changed his appearance, ignoring the fact that Michael had vitiligo, a skin disorder. In regards to journalism, Prince had a pretty good relationship with the press, but due to him having a mystique persona, it barely interacted with them, while Mike, on the other hand, didn't have a good relationship with the press since they continued to make lies on him to this day. And it got even worse in the 90s when he got lied on. And also, it's the press that created that god-awful nickname for Michael that I will not mention. More specifically, the UK press. But moving on with that. And then with my next pointer is, the next thing I'm going to state is Prince is viewed as a self-made musical genius with a varied catalog, while Michael is viewed as a song and dance pop star with a bunch of controversies, and whose genius is often downplayed and attributed to Quincy Jones. And this is the pretty much deal breaker with this detail. When people talk about Prince, they mainly discuss how much of a musical genius Prince is due to the fact that he can play a bunch of instruments, writer, produces his own music. It has a bunch of albums. Then with Michael, they always attribute Michael's genius to Quincy, which, if that was the case, if Quincy was this big genius that made Michael to the music star he is now, then how come he didn't have any other artists he made famous after Michael besides Tamia? Plus, Michael didn't need Quincy to become successful, which was it. The Dangerous and History albums was proof of that. In fact, it was mentioned in the Michael Jackson documentary From Motown to Off the Wall that Maurice White of Earth, Wind & Fire was supposed to produce for Michael, but for some reason was replaced by Quincy. And this is not me trying to make a dig at Quincy, R.I.P., but Quincy was not the genius behind Michael. In fact, that High Fidelity show had a nerve to pretty much say that Quincy carried Michael, when in reality, Michael carried Quincy, because in fact, before he worked with Michael, Quincy was known as a jazz producer and film and TV composer. And when he worked with Michael, that's when he became an independent producer. They always use they use Prince being able to play instruments, like playing in it. I know some people are getting angry with this, but there's nothing special about being able to play instrument. That doesn't make you a genius. The fact that Prince had a lot of albums, and even with the albums thing, only out of those 39 albums, only 10 of them are considered good and timeless, while the rest of them are acquired taste. Michael's albums, on the other hand, are consistently timeless. And even with Prince's catalog, most of the songs he wrote up until he became Jehovah's Witness were mainly about sex. But moving on to my next pointer, which is Prince's only public issue was his beef with Warner Brothers, which led to him changing his name to The Symbol. Then while Michael was bashed and slandered by the public for most of his career, which is linked to his purchase of the Lennon McCarthy songs. Now with Prince only public, as I stated earlier, the closest thing Prince got to a public issue was when he was having issues with his record company, Warner Brothers. And he protested this by changing his name to a symbol and releasing mediocre work just to get out of his contract. While Michael was pretty much bashed and slandered since the 70s, there was literally pushing rumors that he wanted to become a woman back in the 70s when he was still a young adult. And then in the 80s, he and his brothers got attacked for making their concert tickets expensive, which is another messy situation in itself. And then when he got the Lennon McCartney songs, which is and the reason why I refer to it as Lennon McCartney songs, those were the only Beatles songs that was in that catalog. Since George and Ringo already owned their publishing, that's when it went full throttle. If they weren't bashing him for making up things about his appearance, they making up things about his sexuality, his family, all of that. And even after his death, he's still getting bashed or slandered. In regards to and how they were paid tribute to when he passed away, Prince had 2 post-mortem tribute episodes from Empire and Blackish, while Michael only had a tribute episode from Glee. And no, reality talent shows don't count. When Prince first died, Empire, a year or so after Prince died, Empire, they had an episode dedicated to Prince where Anika and Hakeem's daughter were having a Prince and Princess's 15th birthday party, and Prince's late sister Tyka was the special guest star. And not only did Tyka appear during the big cameo appearance at the party, but Hakeem and Jamal performed a reworked version of Let's Go Crazy. Which considering if they had the approval of Prince's state and Tyka was in the episode, it would make sense for them to be able to cover that song. Then Blackish, which is created by Kenya Barris, which this point will become important later on. They had an episode where the family recreated well-known Prince videos. Then with Michael, aside from getting truths by Dancing with the Stars and X Factor, which are both reality competition shows, he had a tribute show from Glee where the cast spent the entire episode singing MichaelJackson songs. And Glee seemed to be the only sitcom show that paid true to Michael, unless I forgot another sitcom show. And then the next segment is music trajectory / cultural perception amongst fan and critics. Sorry for the silence. I've worked trying to scroll it down. Both Prince and Michael incorporated many genres to their music, but this is only emphasized with Prince. Since it ties into Prince being the publicly proclaimed musical genius, Prince incorporated so many genres into his sound that he wound up creating his own genre, which was the Minneapolis sound, which was a bit of funk, rock, pretty much funk and rock music. Then with Michael and also incorporated different genres to his music, like hip hop, classical, pop, R&B, rock, which is reflected in his later work, including Dangerous, which I feel is Michael's peak album and a lot more superior to his works with Quincy. Dare me. But they only discussed this with Prince, which shows you the bias. Michael, he did because they view Michael as a song and dance man and capable of writing his own songs. Then Prince had 39 studio albums in comparison to Michael's 10 solo albums. While Michael's adult albums hold up well and are timeless classics, most of Prince's albums that aren't his biggest of our acquired taste. As I stated earlier, all of Michael's adult albums, more specifically Off the Wall, Thriller, Dangerous, History, and Invincible, they're very superior and hold up very well and are very relevant and are very relevant to this day. Like you can't you can't pass any person that have pretty much sung they don't really care about us in regards to political protest, or listening to Earth Song, which is a song about in regards to the environment, and Heal the World and other songs. David Prince, most of Prince's work out of his 39 albums, including his 90s work, are of acquired taste. Like, in my opinion, Diamonds and Pearls was Prince's last great album up into musicology. And the rest of his 90s work was pretty much him pandering to hip hop, which I'll discuss that in my next point, and have a lot of stinkers, like the infamous Crystal Ball situation, Emancipation. And up till musicology, Prince was pretty much at a low point musically wise. And speaking of discography, Prince fans often use his large discography and versatility to downplay Michael's achievements in musicality. And this is like a big fandom thing, but Prince fans, they always, to downplay Michael's musicality, they always bring up the fact that they always bring up Prince having a larger catalog and his ability to play in multiple genres pretty much downplay Michael. Pretty much, Prince fans, they view Michael as a commercialized plastic pop star, which is an unfair comparison. Which is a very, very unfair comparison, because about Michael, not only did he wrote his songs, but he also beatboxed. It used the beatboxing, it incorporated beatboxing into his work. There's a reason why Michael was inducted to Songwriters Hall of Fame. And yes, he produced this work as well. Just because he didn't release a bunch of albums to Prince doesn't mean that Michael was a manufactured pop star. Then their public view, the public image of Prince is as the super genius, while Michael's public image is the eccentric pop star with a lot of baggage, which is pretty self-explanatory. And this gets pushed by the Prince fan community. And then a lot of celebrity Prince fans tend to bash Michael, like Touré, Kenya Barris, Janelle Monáe, Chris Rock, and Questlove. Kenya Barris, as I mentioned earlier, not only did that Blackish episode on Prince, but in that garbage Coming to America movie, during the wooing scene, which was pretty much a callback from the first movie, instead of OI singing She's Your Queen to Be, Tiana Taylor and The Sun covered Get Off by Prince. And Kenya Barris also, when that Garbage That Should Not Be Named aired at the Sundance Festival, he was among the audience members that applauded that garbage. Then Chris Rock is pretty self-explanatory. If you watch episodes about Chris, there was an episode where Chris literally dressed up as Prince to go to an adult Halloween party. And then the other episode, in one episode I watched, which was the episode where he joined the wrestling team to get a varsity jacket. And the subplot was Rochelle trying to lose weight. Rochelle, she rocks a new pair of pants who turns out to be Drew's. And when Rochelle tells Julius, you made me got me into a boy's pair of jeans, and the Chris Rock narrator saying you and MichaelJackson, that's what made me dislike this episode. But Chris Rock, he's pretty much your typical Prince fan that bashes Michael just to make Prince look better. And he with that, during his Selective Outrage comedy special, when he made a diss towards Michael and was wearing a Prince symbol necklace, which will show you just how hardcore Prince fan Michael is. Then Janelle Monáe, she did 2 tributes to Prince. The first at the 2010 BET Awards when Prince was receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award, and second when Prince died, doing a medley of his hits. A few months ago, she mocked Michael by reenacting that whole balcony situation, which was in very poor taste. And then with Teray is a music journalist who has all the praise for Prince, even through interviews with people close to him, but yet negatively bashes Michael. Even though you were literally outed her sexually harassing a woman. And I've read the things he said to said woman, and it's very disgusting. I advise you to read at your own risk, but he has a lot of nerve passing judgment on Michael. And then Questlove is your typical fan that downplays Michael just to prop up Prince, because a few years ago he wrote in one of his tweets now claiming how Michael made it seem as though Michael grew up with Silver Spoon, saying how Michael was more influenced by movie musicals, in spite of the fact that Michael Michael, he did watch a lot of movie musicals and older movies, but he was also inspired by the R&B, the soul acts at the time, the soul and Motown acts at the time, like Jackie Wilson, Marvin Gaye, The Temptations. And then brought Prince growing up listening to James Brown at the like. So you notice a pattern with a lot of these celebrity Prince fans. They bash Michael, but to prop up their idol, which sickens me to the core, because you could like someone, but you shouldn't have to bash them just to prop them up. And the next point is Prince, MichaelJackson, in the Black community. Prince is universally praised / loved within the Black community, while Michael, who is also loved, beloved and praised, gets negatively attacked over his personal life. And I know, and I'm not referring to the entirety of Black community, by the way, so don't bash me. I'm just referring to certain parts of the Black community. Especially the ones that have a wishy-washy mindset about Blackness. But I do know that some people in the Black community, they tend to praise Prince because the fact he didn't sell out, he didn't go deflect to Hollywood and all that. While with Michael, there's always criticisms about his personal life and his physical appearance. Or people calling him anti-Black because he didn't marry a Black woman, or have visibly Black children. In his plastic surgery, and even with the plastic surgery thing, everyone go about it logic that any person that has plastic surgery is has internalized racism. Then there's a lot of people that have issues with this because they're that plastic surgery. It's common for people to get plastic surgery nowadays. And in regards to Michael not marrying a Black woman, since when is an interracial relationship is considered anti-Black? But even with that, and then, as I mentioned earlier, Michael had a skin disorder that was pretty much genetic, called vitiligo. They had no control over. But moving on, Prince lied about being mixed in his singing process, but was never bashed. In regards to this, Prince, in the early 80s, back when Prince was starting to be known, he said in an interview that he was half white and half black, despite the fact that he was a interracial black man. And he was never and he was never bashed for doing that. Which is weird, since we know some people in the black community, they like to criticize black people that run away from their blackness. But Prince literally ran away from his blackness by lying about being mixed, just so he could get crossed with cess. And I know there's going to be some people saying, oh, well, he only did that as a blissy thing. People do that all the time. But my thing is, y'all take that seriously. A black person downplaying their blackness or lying about or running away from their blackness seriously. But when Prince did it, he gets a free pass. And I feel like, and I'll explain it in my final thoughts. And there's also the old head bias as well. And this is something I noticed, is that the old heads, they tend to be a lot more critical of Michael than what Prince seems that. They feel that Michael sold out during the Thriller era, when he started recording, when he became a big star and we started producing mainstream music. And it is another thing that's common within certain parts of black community. Certain parts of black community, they tend to look down on black stars that get crossover success and make it seem as though they build a community or sold out their community. Like, they literally turned on Michael during the Bad Era and made assumptions about his skin color, saying that he was running away from his blackness. And even to this day, there's still some old heads that pretty much bash Michael, namely because of the choices he made in his personal life and his music. Feel like he should have stuck to doing off the wall music, off the wall as Jackson's area music. But I digress. In regards to my opinions, I'm not trying to say that everyone in the black community are like this in regard to these TV icons, but I'm just saying there are some. So don't get my statement twisted. And then we're going to move on to the treatment of their private lives. Prince is seen as the ultimate lover boy, while Michael is seen as a sexual, quote unquote, and incapable of being a relationship. And people they make out this view of Prince due to the number of women that he was romantically linked to, while with Michael, he's linked to the same old women, despite the fact he had a lot of girlfriends who are both private and public. Be sure to check out my episode discussing Michael's love life. And then Michael's relationships and marriages with non-black women are often brought up, but not Prince's. Now, as I mentioned earlier in my previous segment, one of the black community's main criticisms of Michael was the fact that he didn't marry a black woman nor have visibly black children. And with that, but yeah, Prince married a Puerto Rican girl, a woman of Puerto Rican descent, two women, one of Puerto Rican descent and one of Egyptian and Italian descent, and nobody criticized them for that. And people use the same 5 women that Michael was really linked to as a sign that he wasn't into black women, which is not true at all. If you check out my podcast episode and the links I left in said podcast episode, there's a woman named Ramonica Harris, which you could look up her interview online, which was the first and only time she spoke about Michael. She was a black woman that dated Michael. But she's often ignored because the MJ fan community rather romanticize the same old relationships. Most of the women in said relationships have disrespected Michael. And in regards to Prince, a good chunk of the women Prince dated / romantic linked to was lighter complected / ethnically ambiguous and or mixed or multiracial, which, if you look at all the women Prince dated, they all fit a certain type. They're either ethnically ambiguous or mixed race or multiracial. And the one black woman. The one black woman he dated that was darker skinned was Nona Gay, Marvin Gaye's daughter, but he left her to be with Maite. In fact, let me list all the women that Prince dated. Vanity is a mixed race woman. Sheila E. is a mixed race light skinned woman. Susanna Melvoin is a white woman. Troy Bayer is a mixed race light skinned woman. Jill Jones is a ethnically ambiguous multiracial woman. Anna Fantastic is a white woman. Bria Valente looks ethnically ambiguous to me. Who else has Prince dated? Carmen Electra is a white woman. And as you can tell by all the women I listed, they all fit the same type. But Prince wasn't criticized for dating women of a certain skin tone or a certain type. And then another part with those women was that half of the women that Prince dated were his proteges, which makes you wonder the relationship dynamic. Which makes you wonder the relationship dynamic. And a sign that he was through with them was when he recorded an album with them. To quote Jill Jones in a Huffington Post interview, "Some men will give you flowers, but Prince will give you albums." And according to Jill Jones, once you pretty much got an album out of Prince, you were pretty much done with him romantically, and you would move on to the next. And nowadays, this was come across as shady, but that seemed to be his MO. And then another clip, there was this video I watched from Cynic 22 discussing the Diamonds and Pearls era, where Prince pivoted to hip hop to pretty much gain a new audience since his old sound was falling out of favor. A member of Prince's band recalled that he warned Carmen not to sleep with Prince, because if she slept with Prince, she would pretty much be kicked to the curb. One day he came across Carmen crying, and pretty much he asked him if he pretty much gave up the goods to Prince, and she said yes, and he told her that's why you're gone, which is a cold-hearted way to get rid of something. And equal with his proteges, the female proteges, the only one that was able to have a big career was Carmen Electra, and that's much of a stretch. But before we go on to my next segment, with the Diamonds and Pearls thing, I meant to mention my previous segment how Michael was chastised during the Danger Zone when Michael hired New Jack Swing creator Teddy Riley to release the album, which is the biggest selling New Jack Swing album, by the way. Michael was chastised for recording New Jack Swing to pander to the black community or the black youth, but Prince literally did a song bashing hip hop, but yeah, had no problem bashing hip hop, but had no problem incorporating hip hop into Diamonds and Pearls. But he's not called out for being a hypocrite or wanting to pander to the youth. But our second to last category is academia. Duke University, which is in my home state, has a yearly Prince and MJ course. And looking at what's the books featured in said course, they have positive, which shows their bias. The books they have of Prince are positive, namely his memoir and a book about his artistry, but they have negative books about Michael, which lean tabloid, and are missing two of his memoirs, which was Boonwalker and Dancing the Dream, which is a book of poetry. If that didn't show bias, I don't know what is. And by them not including Michael's books, they're pretty much misleading these students. It is obvious, considering the fact that the books they have on Michael are tabloid, it's obvious they're pushing Prince as an all-around musical genius, while Michael was the controversial eccentric pop star, which goes to show you the bias of that course, and the person running that course ought to be ashamed of himself. But this goes back to my point how the biggest MJ haters are the biggest Prince fans. And then last but not least, their estate. Prince's estate have been standing on business, while Michael's estate has turned Michael into a cash cow commodity and barely do anything defending Michael's good name and preserving his legacy. Prince's estate, to give you how much Prince's estate has been driving, not only did they were able to turn Paisley Park, his home and recording studio, into the museum, but they were able to upload Prince's music on YouTube, release his unreleased music, and pretty much hold annual gatherings honoring Prince's legacy, like the Prince Celebration concerts. While Michael's estate, on the other hand, they've been doing a shit job with Michael's image and legacy. The biggest red flag of this was when they released that terrible Michael album with 3 fake songs. That was the moment we should have side-eyed the estate, but no, we allowed them to get away with more bad things. Not only has Neverland has yet to turn into a museum, but the estate, every time Michael gets light on, they barely come to his fence nor make a statement. Not to mention, they always romanticize the 80s era Michael. Consider that there has been they haven't re-released the Dangerous History and Invisible album for their respective anniversaries, but yet they were able to do re-releases of Thriller and Bad. All MJC want to do is make money off Michael's image. Be it do video games, musicals, Cirque du Soleil, albums, crappy t-shirts that are barely promoted, among other things. And then one proof of this, we're submitting this opinion, is the documentaries and how the respective states handle slanderous documentaries on the public figure they're representing. As we all know, in 2019, a garbage documentary that should not be named came out, and the state, instead of aggressively defending Michael, they decided to upload 3 of his concerts, leaving his fans and family to do the hard work in defending him. While when the 8-hour Prince documentary was supposed to come out on Netflix, that wound up being canned because they were going to paint Prince in a bad light, because they had some shady things to say about Prince, or some pretty much character assassination things about Prince. The Prince estate shut that documentary down. And my thing about that is, if the Prince estate was able to shut a documentary about Prince that had some horrible things about him, then how come the estate couldn't do the same? And before I just say, oh well, they didn't see this coming. Oh, they didn't see this coming, they couldn't do anything about it. When the moment that garbage premiered on Sundance, they had like 2 months to put a stop to it, but they didn't. Should that just show you the difference between those two estates? The Prince estate care about Prince, while the MJ estate doesn't, which makes sense considering that the MJ estate is ran by 2 people that Michael was not in touch with at the time of his death, and who could care less about him. And then here's my conclusion and assessment. To answer the question of this topic, which is, did Prince have it easier than Michael in the industry? I said yes, because they're back. Prince wasn't light on and pretty much had a good relationship with the press. Prince barely had any, aside from his dispute with Warner Bros. He didn't have any public issues. He's always well regarded. It always romanticized over his artistry. Not to mention, he was able to make movies while Michael wasn't. I feel like, and also Prince benefits from light skin privilege as well, due to him being a lighter complected man. And then in their perception, or how they're treated within the black community, Prince was never bashed for lying about being mixed race / downplaying his blackness, nor not marrying a black woman. While Michael was bashed for every little thing, including his appearance and plastic surgery, and for wanting to turn white, even though he had a skin disorder that he had no control of. And as much as I love these two icons, we do have to admit that Prince did have it easier in the industry than Michael. That's just the sad truth. And plus, let's stop this Prince versus MJ comparison. They're both different artists and the same. And yes, they're both one of pop artists, but they're both different. Compare Prince to someone that was on his level, someone that was able to that was a multi-instrumentalist, a producer, and songwriter, all in one. And then we'll talk. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this great analysis. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. In the next episode, I am going to discuss Brazilian novellas and cliches. So be prepared for that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check this episode out on YouTube, Spotify, or radio, or wherever platform my podcast is available on. I can't wait to see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye.